It begins with a flash of lights, the kind that only Bravo cameras can create, glossy, charged, and unforgiving. On Watch What Happens Live, Whitney Rose sits across from Andy Cohen, her expression calm but her words cutting to the air like a blade. This season, she says with a knowing smile, only gets tougher for Lisa. The studio audience reacts instantly. Gasps, whispers, the familiar hum of drama about to detonate. Within minutes, clips flood social media. Fans dissecting every micro-expression, every pause, every word that might hint at betrayal. Lisa Barlow, the self-styled Mormon 2.0 and business powerhouse behind Vida Tequila, suddenly finds herself at the center of a storm. It's not the first time these two women have clashed, but this time feels different. Whitney's accusation isn't just about gossip. It's about trust, image, and survival in the high-stakes world of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. She claims Lisa planted damaging rumors about her jewelry business, Prism, a charge that cuts deeper than the usual housewives squabbles. Lisa, of course, denies it all, calling Whitney's version of events ridiculous and defamatory. Yet, as fans know on Bravo, denial often only fuels the flames. The confrontation reverberates beyond the show. Hashtags trend, memes multiply, and Reddit threads explode with speculation. Viewers split into camps, Team Whitney or Team Lisa. Some see Whitney as a truth teller, a woman fed up with manipulation behind the scenes. Others believe Lisa is once again the misunderstood entrepreneur, unfairly targeted because of her success and unapologetic attitude. But beneath the surface of this drama lies something more intriguing, a shared history between two ambitious women who built their brands from scratch, now entangled in rivalry, resentment, and revelation. What brought them to this point? What secrets simmer beneath the perfectly curated Instagram feeds and sparkling confessionals? And just how far are they willing to go to protect their reputations? Stay tuned, because in this story, nothing is as simple as friendship or feud. In the world of Salt Lake City, alliances shift with every headline, and Whitney Rose's warning might just be the first tremor before the season's biggest earthquake. Whitney Rose's story begins far from the bright lights of Bravo, in a small Canadian province where the wind off the Atlantic shapes everything it touches. Born on May 9, 1986, in Prince Edward Island, she grew up in Charlottetown, a community where country music wasn't just entertainment. It was a way of storytelling. Her grandparents owned a local bar called the Union Hall, a place filled with laughter, jukeboxes, and the smell of beer-soaked wood floors. As a child, Whitney would sneak downstairs, drawn by the music drifting through the walls. There, among working-class regulars, she first sang for an audience. It wasn't about fame then. It was instinct. The same instinct that would one day make her a rising voice in country music. Her influences were rooted in timeless sounds. She was raised on the voices of Kitty Wells, Tammy Wynette, Hank Williams, and George Jones, legends who wrote pain and pride into every lyric. But Whitney also had an ear for old-school pop. She loved the melodic flair of the Ronettes and the romantic harmonies of 1960s girl groups. That blend shaped what she later called her vintage pop-infused, neo-traditional country style. Classic country heart with modern polish and nostalgic charm. Her first album, Whitney Rose, 2012, introduced that blend to the world. It was raw, graceful, and steeped in roots tradition. 3 years later, she followed with Heartbreaker of the Year, 2015, produced by Raul Malo of the Mavericks. Critics praised it for its warmth and personality. Part Patsy Cline, part 21st Century Rebel. Then came South Texas Suite, 2017, a 6-song love letter to Austin, Texas, where she had relocated to grow her career. That same year, she released Rule 62, her breakout project, a record that caught the attention of critics across North America for its confidence and swing. We Still Go to Rodeos continued her creative evolution, and by the time she released Rosie, her 6th studio album, Whitney had become known for writing songs that sounded both timeless and freshly lived. But her journey wasn't without hardship. In December 2022, Whitney was hospitalized after falling gravely ill, an experience that forced her to step back from touring and return to her family in Prince Edward Island. Months of recovery followed, a period she described as the hardest of her life. Yet from that struggle came renewal. Rosie became more than a record. It was a reclamation of strength, a portrait of an artist turning her pain into melody. It marked her comeback and confirmed what those who'd followed her from the start already knew. Whitney Rose doesn't just perform country music. She lives it, across the continent. Another woman was building her own empire, though in a very different arena. Lisa Barlow was born on December 14, 1974, in New York, near Albany, and grew up balancing ambition with a search for identity. Her family converted from Judaism to Mormonism during her childhood, a transition that shaped her worldview. She attended Shawmont High School in Schenectady before heading west to Brigham Young University. After 2 years, she transferred to University at Albany, SUNY, where her sharp marketing instincts began to take shape. Over 2 decades ago, Lisa moved to Utah, a place that would eventually become her stage, both literally and figuratively. She built a business empire from the ground up. First came Lux Marketing, her own brand consulting firm. Then, with her husband John, she launched Vida Tequila in 2007, a premium label distilled in Jalisco, Mexico. What began as a family business soon evolved into a lifestyle brand, featured in interviews, celebrity endorsements, and, eventually, television. Lisa didn't stop there. She added ventures like Fresh Wolf, a men's grooming line, and became known around Salt Lake City for her entrepreneurial drive and her insistence that perfection is a moving target. Her rise to fame came with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, where she joined the original cast when the show premiered in 2020. Her polished confidence, business savvy, and outspoken nature made her instantly recognizable. But Lisa's identity as a tequila mogul and a practicing member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints drew fascination and criticism alike. She coined the term Mormon 2.0 to describe her faith, still spiritual but not traditional. She drank, she built a liquor brand, and she didn't apologize for it. To some, she was a modern icon of reinvention. To others, a contradiction. In many ways, Whitney and Lisa couldn't have come from more different worlds. One raised singing in a Canadian bar, the other building a luxury brand in Utah. Yet both share the same electric mix of ambition and authenticity. Each woman built her life by defying expectations. And it's exactly those overlapping strengths, determination, independence, and the refusal to back down, that would one day ignite into one of Bravo's most compelling rivalries. When The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City premiered in November 2020, Bravo introduced audiences to a world few had seen before, one that combined the glitz and chaos of Housewives fame with a surprising backdrop of Utah's elite social scene. The cast, Lisa Barlow, Mary Cosby, Heather Gay, Meredith Marks, Whitney Rose, and Jen Shah, came together as a complex mix of ambition, religion, and rivalry. Whitney, the Canadian-born country singer turned Utah businesswoman, was an immediate standout. Known for her soft-spoken charm and openness about her life, she brought a different energy, at once vulnerable and quietly defiant. For Lisa Barlow, the self-assured Mormon 2.0 business mogul, with a penchant for control and perfection, the show became her arena. Her marketing background, luxury branding, and tequila empire gave her an image of power and polish, but also drew skepticism from the other women. Whitney and Lisa's relationship started with cautious respect. Both were entrepreneurs. Whitney with her beauty and wellness ventures, Lisa with her tequila and marketing empire, and both share an awareness of image and reputation. But beneath their professional facades, the chemistry was combustible. Whitney's emotional transparency often clashed with Lisa's sharp pragmatism. Over time, this dynamic evolved into a pattern. Tentative alliance, brief camaraderie, and then explosive fallout. In early seasons, viewers watched as small miscommunications spiraled into public confrontations. Lisa, accustomed to control, bristled when Whitney questioned her intentions. Whitney, who prized emotional honesty, grew frustrated by what she perceived as Lisa's manipulative polish. Their differences, emotional openness versus calculated composure, became the heart of their tension. The Besso's dinner in Season 5 marked a breaking point. What began as a tense social gathering turned into a storm of accusations, side eyes, and veiled hostility. The tension that had simmered for years finally erupted. Whitney, visibly emotional, accused Lisa of planting rumors about her business, Prism Jewelry, and using back-channel gossip to damage her reputation. The claim hit a nerve. For Whitney, this wasn't just Housewives drama. It was personal, tied to her livelihood and identity as a woman rebuilding her career after years in the public eye. Lisa denied the accusations outright. On camera and in interviews, she maintained that Whitney's narrative was built on paranoia and hearsay, not fact. She positioned herself as misunderstood, a businesswoman and mother who didn't have time for petty games. But as the episodes aired, the audience saw the divide deepen. Social media amplified it. Fans took sides, creating Team Whitney and Team Lisa factions online. Clips circulated of Whitney's emotional confrontation and Lisa's defensive composure, each fueling perception that this feud was no longer about a single rumor. It was about power, loyalty, and the hidden cost of fame. What makes their dynamic so gripping is that neither woman is a straightforward villain or victim. Whitney's empathy and self-awareness make her relatable, while Lisa's charisma and confidence make her magnetic. Together, they embody the dual heartbeat of RHOSLC: authenticity versus image, vulnerability versus control. And as their story unfolds, it's clear that the relationship, whether fraught or fragile, remains one of the show's most defining rivalries. The feud between Whitney Rose and Lisa Barlow reached a breaking point when whispers about Whitney's business, Prism Jewelry, began circulating online. What started as an anonymous social media accusation quickly exploded into one of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City's most explosive scandals. According to the claim, Whitney's jewelry line, which she had proudly built as part of her post-music entrepreneurial journey, wasn't what it seemed. The rumor alleged that she had been purchasing jewelry in bulk from Alibaba, a global wholesale marketplace, and then reselling the pieces under her brand name at a marked-up price. For Whitney, this was more than gossip. It was an attack on her integrity as a businesswoman and creator. She denied the allegations outright, calling them baseless and deliberately malicious. But what made the controversy particularly damaging was Whitney's belief that the rumor hadn't simply appeared. It had been planted. She began to suspect that someone from within her own circle, someone who understood how the Housewives ecosystem worked, had intentionally fed the false information into gossip accounts to create drama and tarnish her reputation. Over time, Whitney's suspicions focused squarely on one person, Lisa Barlow. Whitney's reasoning came down to patterns: the timing of the rumor, the way it spread, and the subtle ways Lisa had commented on Whitney's ventures in previous episodes. In an explosive segment on Watch What Happens Live, WWHL, Whitney didn't mince words. She suggested on air that Lisa might be behind the whispers, a move that sent shockwaves through Bravo fandom. The studio fell into that uneasy silence only live TV can create, a mix of disbelief and fascination. Whitney wasn't just calling out a co-star. She was accusing a powerful Bravo personality of calculated sabotage. Lisa, of course, didn't take this quietly. Publicly and privately, she pushed back hard. She dismissed Whitney's claims as delusional, emphasizing that she had no involvement in the rumor mill. "These are lies, and they're damaging to my relationships and my business," Lisa reportedly said, hinting at potential legal action if the accusations continued. For Lisa, this wasn't just about defending her image. It was about protecting her brand, her reputation as a successful entrepreneur, and her standing among both fans and castmates. In interviews and confessional moments, Lisa expressed deep frustration and even hurt. She claimed that every time she thought she and Whitney were rebuilding their friendship, something new would happen to destroy the fragile trust between them. "Every time I think we're good," she vented, Whitney F's it up. For Lisa, Whitney's behavior wasn't about truth-seeking. It was about drama. But for Whitney, it was personal. The jewelry rumor had affected her credibility, her fan base, and even her mental well-being. To her, this wasn't gossip. It was a deliberate attempt to discredit her work. That's why her warning carried such weight. When she told WWHL viewers that this season only gets tougher for Lisa, it wasn't a throwaway tease. It was a statement of intent. Whitney was signaling that she had more to say, that more truths were coming, and that the balance of power in RHOSLC was about to shift. For fans, the moment marked a turning point. This wasn't just a feud. It was a battle for narrative control. Whitney, once seen as emotional and easily hurt, was stepping into a new role: the one calling the shots, holding the cards, and promising that Lisa's carefully crafted image might not survive what's coming next. Behind the polished glamour and Bravo-level drama, both Whitney Rose and Lisa Barlow have been navigating their own private battles, the kind that can't be captured fully in confessional or edited montage. The tension between them isn't just about gossip or petty rivalries. It's fueled by personal struggles, ambition, and the pressure to maintain a carefully constructed public image under relentless scrutiny. For Whitney, resilience has always been part of her story. In late 2022, she faced one of the darkest chapters of her life, a sudden and severe health crisis that forced her to halt everything. What began as exhaustion spiraled into hospitalization, leaving her to confront the terrifying possibility of losing the voice and strength that defined her. She retreated to Prince Edward Island to recover, surrounded by family and quiet. During this period, her creative spirit flickered but didn't die. From that pain emerged Rosie, her sixth studio album, a record that transformed illness into catharsis. The songs carried a raw vulnerability, less about heartbreak, more about survival and rediscovery. Critics described it as a comeback grounded in emotional truth, a portrait of an artist turning her scars into melody. Whitney's creative process mirrors her personality, deeply introspective, methodical, and uncompromising. She's spoken about her unusual songwriting habits, how inspiration hits in moments of solitude. If a lyric or melody begins to form, she'll walk out a crowded room, even leave a party mid-conversation, just to be alone with the thought before it vanishes. That discipline, that compulsion to protect her creative spark, often isolates her, but it's also what gives her authenticity. Yet the dual life she leads now, country singer by passion, reality star by circumstance, magnifies every vulnerability. The emotional exposure performing on stage is one thing. Doing it on national television, where every glance or argument becomes social media fuel, is another. The strain of balancing her music, marriage, and her role on RHOSLC leaves little room for rest. The public may see a composed, glamorous Whitney, but behind the scenes, she's still someone fighting to preserve her identity in a world built on spectacle. Lisa Barlow, meanwhile, operates inside her own pressure cooker. Her empire, a blend of marketing, luxury branding, and the tequila business, is built on precision, consistency, and unflinching self-belief. But behind that image lies a constant undercurrent of stress. In 2024, Lisa faced significant legal and financial pressure when she was sued by former business partners, including Yukon Construction and Bart Carlson, over alleged unpaid debts totaling more than $400,000 linked to her companies, Lux and Vida Tequila. The lawsuits painted an unflattering picture, one of a woman whose high-gloss lifestyle might be cracking under financial strain. Lisa publicly maintained her confidence, but the news reignited debates about how much of her success was real stability versus reality show gloss. And then there's her identity, a self-described Mormon 2.0. For some, that phrase is empowering, signaling a modern faith that embraces both spirituality and autonomy. For others, especially within Utah's conservative circles, it's seen as hypocritical. Lisa's tequila brand, her casual approach to alcohol, and her willingness to pick and choose which aspects of Mormon culture to follow have made her both a target and a trailblazer. She's simultaneously celebrated as a woman unafraid to define her own faith and criticized as someone exploiting it for branding. The tension between belief and business, authenticity and ambition, never really leaves her. Add to that the constant magnification of being a Bravo star, where every argument, facial expression, or offhand remark becomes fodder for tabloids and online dissection, and it's clear Lisa lives in a state of perpetual performance. Her confidence often reads as arrogance, her composure is coldness, but beneath it is someone acutely aware of how fragile her empire can be. Every lawsuit, every rumor, every camera flash has a potential to shake the image she's worked decades to perfect. In many ways, both women are mirrors of each other, ambitious, driven, emotionally complex, but standing on opposite ends of the same battlefield. Whitney channels her pain into art. Lisa converts hers into control. Whitney seeks truth, even when it hurts. Lisa seeks power, even when it isolates her. Their feud isn't just reality TV. It's a collision of two survival instincts, each shaped by the weight of their own private wars. The heart of the Whitney Rose and Lisa Barlow feud doesn't just live in interviews or off-screen rumors. It's built scene by scene, moment by moment, through the most explosive and unforgettable episodes of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Each moment feels cinematic, like a slow-motion car crash where every emotion is heightened and every glance carries subtext. These are the key episodes and scenes that turn the simmering tension into one of Bravo's most riveting rivalries. The story ignites at the Besso's dinner, one of those glittering gatherings that start with champagne toasts and end in emotional chaos. The cast is seated under warm lights, surrounded by luxury and tension that could cut glass. Lisa arrives perfectly composed, her tone cool, her energy controlled. Whitney, on the other hand, carries visible unease, the kind of restrained frustration that always precedes confrontation. The dinner begins politely, but as soon as past grievances surface, the room shifts. Whitney questions Lisa's authenticity, hinting that the words said in private never match the persona she shows on camera. Lisa responds with clipped patience, her voice rising as she defends her reputation. Soon, everyone's attention is locked on them. The air thickens. Heather Gay looks away. Meredith Marks tries to mediate, and Jen Shah fans the flames with pointed remarks. What begins as polite conversation unravels into full-blown hostility. When Whitney accuses Lisa of manipulating people behind the scenes, Lisa's mask slips for just a moment. Her face tightens, and her voice trembles with anger. By the time the dinner ends, alliances have shifted, trust is broken, and the entire social hierarchy of RHOSLC has been reshuffled. Then comes the Prism Jewelry confrontation, one of the most talked-about moments of the season. Whitney, armed with screenshots and whispers from social media, confronts the accusations head-on. The setting feels almost theatrical, a boutique-like environment where every sparkle of jewelry contrasts with the tension in the air. Whitney lays it out. The accusations that she's reselling cheap jewelry, the whispers about her business ethics, the feeling that these rumors didn't just appear, but were strategically planted. Her voice cracks between fury and pain as she looks directly at Lisa, searching for truth. Lisa deflects, calm, confident, and deeply irritated. Her response is sharp. "You're obsessed with blaming me. Maybe you should look at yourself." The other housewives exchange glances, their loyalties uncertain. The confrontation ends unresolved, but the damage is irreversible. In Whitney's eyes, Lisa has crossed an unforgivable line. The tension spills beyond the show into Watch What Happens Live, where Whitney takes her fight public. Seated under the neon glow of the Bravo set, she looks composed but fiery. When Andy Cohen asked about the jewelry rumors, Whitney doesn't hesitate. She suggests that someone from within her own cast circle is behind it. The room goes silent for a heartbeat. Andy presses, the audience leans in, and then she says it not directly, but clearly enough. Lisa Barlow. Gasps, nervous laughter, the ripple of disbelief. It's a reality TV masterstroke, the kind of moment that defines a season. Fans light up social media within minutes, dissecting every word, every facial expression. Lisa doesn't appear on that episode, but her shadow hangs over it. Off camera, she reportedly erupts, furious at the implication, and already consulting her legal team. Whitney, meanwhile, does a retreat. She doubles down, insisting that she's simply telling the truth. The conflict escalates with legal threats and retaliation. Lisa's team begins discussing possible defamation action, citing damage to her personal and professional reputation. In confessional interviews, she frames herself as a victim of Whitney's obsession, claiming she's done nothing but try to coexist peacefully. But in group scenes, the gloves are off. Lisa warns that if Whitney continues spreading lies, there will be consequences. The confrontation scenes are pure Bravo theater. Lisa pacing, Whitney in tears but refusing to back down, both women circling each other with verbal jabs that cut deeper each time. When Whitney says, "You can't intimidate me with lawyers," it's clear she's not bluffing. She's made peace with being the underdog. And in doing so, she becomes the unexpected hero of her own narrative. Finally, the feud expands into the social media battlefield. Screenshots, anonymous tips, and subtweets flood fan pages. Instagram gossip accounts post cryptic stories hinting at the truth behind the jewelry scandal. Bravo fans comb through likes, comments, and deleted posts for clues. Both women become subject to speculation. Who's leaking what, who's planning what story, and who's trying to control the narrative. Lisa's sleek, curated image contrasts with Whitney's emotional vulnerability online, creating two distinct public personas at war. Even the smallest move, like an unfollow a vague caption, becomes headline fodder. The lines between personal and performance blur completely. By the time these moments stack together, it's no longer just a storyline. It's a saga of ambition, image, and identity under pressure. RHOSLC turns their feud into a Shakespearean drama of trust and betrayal, played out across dinner tables, TV studios, and social media feeds. And through it all, Whitney's warning still echoes. This season only gets tougher for Lisa, because in the Bravo universe, power shifts fast, and the woman who seems cornered today might be the one holding the spotlight tomorrow. The stakes in the feud between Whitney Rose and Lisa Barlow go far beyond a few heated arguments. This is a battle with reputations, livelihoods, and long-term credibility on the line. In the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, perception is everything, and for both women, the way they're seen now could shape not only their public images but their future careers. Behind every eye roll, confession, and on-camera outburst lies a deeper strategy. Because in Bravo's world, survival depends on how well you can manage the story being told about you. For Whitney, the risk is painfully personal. She isn't just another reality star chasing airtime. She's a musician, a business owner, and someone who spent years crafting an image of authenticity. Her brand, both as performer and entrepreneur, rests on the idea of integrity. So when accusations about her jewelry business began circulating, they struck at the heart of everything she's built. To Whitney, these weren't just online whispers. They were potential deal breakers for fans and customers who trust her as a genuine creator. Every time the rumor resurfaces, it chips away at that image of credibility she's fought to maintain. On RHOSLC, Whitney's emotional candor has always been her strength. It's what makes viewers root for her. But in a feud like this, that same vulnerability can be weaponized. If she appears too volatile or reactive, the narrative could turn against her. Viewers might see her not as a victim of manipulation, but as the instigator of drama. The more she doubles down without concrete proof, the more she risks alienating both her friends in the cast and the audience watching from home. Yet, if she backs down, she risks confirming Lisa's framing, that she's unstable, irrational, or trying to stir attention. For Whitney, it's a tightrope walk. To be passionate but not reckless, assertive but not obsessive. And beyond the cameras, there's the personal toll, the stress of defending herself not just in the media, but in her own community, where every headline reverberates. For Lisa, the stakes are equally, if not more, severe. Her entire identity is tied to image control. She's not only a reality TV star, she's a businesswoman whose companies depend on perception, trust, and luxury branding. Vida Tequila isn't just a product. It's a lifestyle brand that Lisa has built as an extension of herself, polished, ambitious, and aspirational. If the accusations of rumor planting stick, that pristine image cracks. Business partners, investors, and collaborators are watching, and the combination of public drama and existing lawsuits paints a dangerous picture. Lisa's also navigating real-world legal and financial strain. The recent lawsuits from former partners, including claims of more than $400,000 in unpaid debts linked to Lux and Vida Tequila, cast a shadow over her empire. Even if she disputes the allegations, the optics are messy. Now, with Whitney's accusations layered on top, Lisa risks looking like someone willing to do anything to maintain dominance, including sabotage. In a world where fans dissect every move, she must tread carefully. If she comes across as dismissive or condescending toward Whitney's pain, viewers might read it as manipulation or gaslighting. And in the Bravo universe, that perception can be fatal to a brand. Lisa has to play 3 games at once: public relations management, internal alliance politics, and personal defense against both legal and emotional attacks. One wrong move, and everything she's built could crumble under the weight of its own image. Then there's the rest of the cast, whose roles in this power struggle are far from passive. Every feud on RHOSLC ripples through the entire group, shifting loyalties and alliances with each episode. Heather Gay, often caught between the two, must navigate her friendships without becoming collateral damage. Meredith Marks, known for her cryptic diplomacy, may use the chaos to strengthen her own position. Even the quieter castmates are drawn in, because in a series where social capital is everything, choosing a side becomes an act of survival. The more the conflict escalates, the more opportunities it creates for others to step into the spotlight, amplify their own storylines, or exploit the fallout. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, producers and editors shape the narrative for maximum impact. Every eye roll, every confessional soundbite, every dramatic pause is carefully placed to magnify tension. Social media amplifies it further. Fan pages, Bravo bloggers, and gossip accounts turn each scene into a headline. The result is a self-feeding storm, where real emotions and strategic storytelling intertwine until even the participants can't tell which part is authentic and which part is performance. By this stage, it's clear that the Whitney-Lisa feud is more than just a Bravo subplot. It's a study in image management, emotional endurance, and how far people will go to protect the stories they tell about themselves. For Whitney, it's about proving that sincerity still matters in a world of spin. For Lisa, it's about keeping control in a world that thrives on chaos. And for everyone else on RHOSLC, it's about surviving the fallout, because when two powerhouses clash this hard, no one escapes untouched. As the newest season of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City unfolds, Whitney Rose is warning that this season only gets tougher for Lisa Barlow hangs over every episode like a storm cloud waiting to break. The tension between them isn't finished. It's only deepening. If the past seasons were about suspicion and subtle shade, this one promises open warfare. The teasers alone suggest that what we've seen so far is only the beginning, and that both women are entering a phase where every conversation, every alliance, and every secret carries consequences. One of the first things viewers can expect is more revelations of private exchanges, screenshots, text messages, and off-camera whispers that could completely reshape the narrative. Whitney has hinted that there's more to the story behind the Prism Jewelry rumors, and if those receipts surface, it could validate her claims that the gossip wasn't organic, but planted. Leaked texts or unseen footage could reveal who said what, when, and why, the kind of material that transforms speculation into evidence. And if Whitney presents that proof, she could finally flip the narrative, going from emotional accuser to vindicated truth-teller. But Lisa isn't one to back down quietly. This season, the focus may turn toward Lisa's financial and business pressures, especially after the recent reports about lawsuits and debts tied to her companies. Whether or not these issues are addressed directly on camera, they'll form an undercurrent, a pressure point that her rivals could exploit. Viewers will be watching closely to see how Lisa manages her empire while fighting off public controversy. If any of those cracks show on camera, if she loses her composure or lashes out, it could shift audience perception dramatically. Of course, RHOSLC thrives on emotional crescendos, and that means breakdowns, reconciliations, and betrayals are inevitable. Whitney and Lisa may both hit breaking points, moments where the cameras capture real exhaustion behind the bravado. Whitney's strength has always been her vulnerability, so a tearful confessional about betrayal or resilience could humanize her even more. Lisa, on the other hand, might face the opposite challenge, maintaining her composure while everything around her threatens to unravel. And in true Housewives fashion, a moment of raw emotion from either woman could spark empathy or be used as ammunition. As the episodes roll out, the rest of the cast will be forced to pick sides. Heather Gay, Meredith Marks, and others may be drawn deeper into the conflict, each calculating where loyalty and strategy intersect. Bravo's editing will magnify this, cutting between alliances forming and dissolving in real time. Expect private dinners filled with icy civility, public confrontations at glamorous events, and confessionals where unfiltered honesty contrasts sharply with social politeness. Every episode will tighten the screws. Someone's about to break, and Bravo will make sure it happens under the brightest lights possible. Then comes the big question. Can Lisa survive unscathed, or will Whitney turn this feud into her defining moment? If Whitney continues playing the long game, revealing bits of information strategically and keeping her composure, she could transform from the underestimated underdog into the season's moral anchor. Viewers love a comeback arc, and if Whitney appears to rise above the drama while Lisa flounders, she could win not only fan sympathy, but long-term credibility. For Lisa, survival means controlling the narrative, reminding audiences why she's always been a powerhouse, and refusing to let anyone paint her as a villain. As for what to watch this season, keep an eye on the Prism Jewelry storyline. It's far from over. Look for scenes that revisit the rumor's origin, including tense dinners and confessional callbacks. Pay attention to any new Watch What Happens live appearances. These late-night sessions often serve as unofficial battlegrounds where Bravo stars make their real plays. And don't miss the quieter moments, the offhand comments, the subtle glances at parties, the private conversations filmed in lavish kitchens. Those are often where the most telling clues lie. Ultimately, RHOSLC is at its best when real emotion collides with performance, and this feud delivers both in abundance. Whitney's warning wasn't just a soundbite. It was a promise. Things are about to get tougher for Lisa wasn't just about drama. It was about reckoning. By the end of this season, one of these women will emerge stronger, sharper, and more self-aware, while the other will have to face the cost of playing the game too well. Either way, the battle between truth and image, between Whitney's raw honesty and Lisa's calculated control, will define the season, the franchise, and maybe even their futures beyond the show. It all circles back to that one line. Whitney Rose's warning that Lisa's season is about to get tougher. At first, it sounded like a dramatic tease, the kind of soundbite Housewives fans have learned to expect. But as the weeks unfolded, it started to feel less like a threat and more like a prophecy. This feud, rooted in business, betrayal, and pride, has become something bigger than either woman imagined. It's not just about a jewelry rumor or a few harsh words on a reality show. It's about control over the story, over perception, and ultimately, over power. Whitney Rose has positioned herself as the truth teller, the one brave enough to call out what others whisper behind the scenes. She's tired of being underestimated, the emotional one, the sensitive one. Her decision to stand firm, to point directly at Lisa and say, "You planted those rumors," is her way of reclaiming agency. Whether or not viewers believe her, it's undeniable that Whitney's vulnerability has become her strength. She's turned pain into strategy, hurt into headlines. And in the world of Bravo, that's currency. Lisa Barlow, on the other hand, has always embodied composure and control until that control was challenged. Her businesses, her image, her friendships, all meticulously curated, are now under the magnifying glass. Every lawsuit headline, every soundbite from Watch What Happens Live, every whisper in Salt Lake City chips away at the perfection she's built. Yet, Lisa's resilience has always been her weapon. She fights with polish and precision, wielding confidence as both shield and sword. The question is, how long can she keep the facade intact before the cracks start to show? And that's where the audience comes in, because this isn't just a feud. It's a mirror. Who's really right? Is Whitney manipulating the truth for her own redemption arc? Or is Lisa masterfully gaslighting the situation to maintain her empire? In a show built on blurred lines between authenticity and performance, that question may never have one answer. What matters is how each woman plays her hand, and how the viewers interpret the cards. As the season continues, the stakes will rise, rumors will ripple, alliances will shift, and someone will lose control of their narrative. Whether that's Whitney or Lisa depends on who blinks first. And as we close this chapter, one thing's clear. In a world where reality is edited and gossip is currency, Whitney Rose is daring to name the stakes, and Lisa Barlow may be facing the one fight she can't walk away from.